afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us at the Investors Forum. We actually didn't know it was the first one for the year, so we feel quite privileged. Today I'm going to be presenting with Calvin Venter. He's an advisor in our office. He holds a degree in quantum modeling and is currently busy with his postgraduate in financial planning at the University of Stellenbosch.
Most of you will already know Kate. She's been a part of the woodwork a little bit longer than myself. She's a CFP, Certified Financial Planner. She got a CFP designation postgraduate qualification at the University of the Free State. She also got her honours in political sciences, which she graduated summa cum laude from, so she's well positioned to comment on war today. Unfortunately, Venon could not join us today. He's attending the annual Investors Forum up in Sandton, engaging with industry leaders around the investment situation in South Africa at the moment. There is a little clip we're going to play from the Investment Forum up there, so you can look out for that a little bit later.
Thank you. So, our topic today is war, AI, and uranium. And no, we can't predict the future. So we didn't know a war was about to break out when we chose the topic. I think he can verify that. We sent it to him before the war started. But just to be clear, today's presentation is not going to be a political commentary. In fact, at Wynsam we prefer not to discuss politics at all, but obviously where it impacts on the economy, we do have to discuss it.
Obviously these two topics, war and AI, are very topical in the news at the moment, and will definitely have an impact on investments in the short and long term. And so it's good that we're going to talk about it today because, well, we never know when the next bomb is going to drop, probably this evening sometime. Before we get going though, when Venon went up to Sandton today to attend this Investors Forum, he took a video of the opening statements at that forum, and obviously we didn't know when he took the video how well it would slot into our presentation, but it slots in so well, we thought we may as well share it with you today. So we're going to start off by watching that short video. It's around 4 minutes.
Just note he did take this on his cell phone from the audience, so hence...
It is front row though, so it's a lucky tip from the back.
Was it a huntsman or a player that made you pay the cost? That now assumes relaxed positions and prostitutes your loss.
The world feels unsettled. Geopolitical tension, trade wars, conflict in Europe and the Middle East.
Expect higher volatility in 26 and be tactical.
Currency uncertainty. A sense that the old rules no longer apply. But this is not the first time investors have faced a fractured world. In the 1970s, investors lived through strikingly similar conditions. Wars and proxy conflicts, energy crises.
The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries imposed its boycott and within a year raised prices more than 300%.
The collapse of the global monetary system.
Suck it to me.
High inflation, policy uncertainty.
That because of the Watergate matter, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
For the people in the cheaper seats, clap your hands. And the rest of you, if you just rattle your jewelry. Today, markets are again volatile, concentrated and selective. But volatility is not risk. Misallocation is. Every major bull market in history was born from uncertainty. In the 1970s, gold wasn't speculation, it was protection. It reflected a loss of confidence in currencies, not the loss of opportunity. Today, gold's resurgence tells a similar story. Investors aren't abandoning the system, they're diversifying within it.
Costco has been cashing in on the gold craze. They are selling out within hours.
So there's no longer that question out there about tariffs, and we'll be taking in hundreds of billions of dollars.
Currencies are fragmenting, not failing. Trade is adapting, not collapsing. Periods of transition reward investors who understand what endures. There is one crucial difference between then and now.
The second space race is on. And this time, it's not about who could put a man on the moon.
It's about who will dominate the
the economy as a final frontier.
The 1970s faced disruption without acceleration.
Telephone of tomorrow at the Western Electronics Convention in San Francisco.
Today, disruption comes with innovation. Artificial intelligence, automation, digital infrastructure, and new capital markets are not bubbles, they are tools.
We should change the name. I actually mean that. I don't like the name artificial anything, because it's not artificial, it's genius.
Used wisely, they compress decades of growth into years. History doesn't reward those who predict the future. It rewards those who prepare for it. The lesson of the 1970s is not fear, it is perspective.
The overall goal of my companies is to expand consciousness beyond Earth.
In a world of change, opportunity doesn't disappear, it changes shape. This is why we gather, to cut through noise, and to invest with confidence, not complacency. The investment future in retrospect, seeing the unfamiliar in a familiar way.
In South Africa gathered to cut through the noise and gain some perspective. Now, we hand over to Kate to give us some perspective on our financial situation and the current wars going on around us. Over to you.
Thank you, Calvin. Right, so we're going to talk a little bit about war and your money. Now, the fact is that wars do affect your money. It doesn't matter where you live in the world. Some wars more than others, of course. But how do we measure this impact, and what kind of enduring impact will it have, especially for those of you who are living off investment income? It's quite different than those of us who are earning a salary and still investing. So let's have a look and see what we can gather. All right, so here we have different events that have happened over time. All right, for those at the back who can't see, Pearl Harbor, 1941. We've got Suez Crisis, Kennedy assassination, we've got US terrorist attacks, September 11. So it goes all the way from 1941 to current, 2026. Different events that have happened that are wars or warlike. What impact have they had? So you'll see initially, they definitely do have an impact on the markets. So your blue here is your total drawdown. So that's as bad as it gets. What happened? How much money did people lose? And for example, Pearl Harbor, 19.8% because of that event. And then we've got some others, Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, 16%, Russia, Ukraine, 6.8%, negative. Okay, that's how much people lost. So that sounds quite bad. A little bit scary. How much are you busy losing right now? But how long did that last? What kind of long-term impact did it actually have? Here in orange, we have the market 1 year later. Pearl Harbor, people lost 19.8%. But a year later, they made 11.4 over the year. So despite that almost 20% drawdown, they still made money. And you'll see a similar pattern. 32%, 27%, 14%, a lot of these are positive. Okay, there's one big outlier here. 1973. Some of you may remember that. So a chocolate to someone in the audience who can tell me what happened then, why it may have had a bigger impact than any of the other events. Anyone remember? 1973, something in the Middle East. The oil crisis, very good. Okay, chocolate for that gentleman.
I'll put that down.
Thanks.
You're going to have to put your hand up over that one.
Don't worry, it's nice chocolate too. All right, so what happened there was when the OPEC countries had the oil embargo, and the entire world was dependent on them for oil, thus energy, thus transport, thus everything else. The world learned some lessons then. Okay, the world is not the same anymore. we are not as reliant on the Middle East for oil supply as we were then. So yes, that was a train smash, let's be honest. A year later, 41%. There were other things happening around then too, though. That wasn't the only bad thing that happened in that year. And as the video at the beginning highlighted, the 1970s and current have a lot of similarities. Okay, so now Iran is busy being bombed, in case you missed it. That affects the oil price. What effect does it have? So let's have a look at what happens to the oil price when there's conflict. And we're looking at the recent ones, because history is history. Yes, it impacts, but what has happened recently? Okay, oh, sorry. It's a new pointer. Right, Russia invades Ukraine. What happens to the oil price? $120 a barrel. Nasty. Okay? Then we have the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. Oil price goes up. The US captures the president of Venezuela. Oil price goes up. All right, we don't know what the total impact will be currently, but we already know that it's $100 a barrel. Now, we don't know what the long-term effect will be because we don't know how long the war will go on. And we don't know how much of the infrastructure that produces and sells and supplies and transports the oil will be damaged. But clearly there's going to be an impact. Fascinating. What does it mean for you, though, sitting in Hawaii, South Africa? Well, a number of things. So, when there's a war, there are always winners and losers. That's just how it works. The economy doesn't have a conscience. It doesn't care about the fact that there's a war. Some people will make money, and some people will lose money. For us in South Africa, we know the Rand's already gone down. Okay, so that's happened. US dollars going up. Why? Because people run to security when there's volatility, uncertainty. The US dollar is seen as secure. Oil price, as we know, has gone up. That has an effect feeding into retailers, because everything in the shops has to be transported to the shops. Trucks need petrol, especially in this country, because we don't really have trains. So retailers are going to be impacted. What about stocks going down? Anybody look at their share portfolio in the last couple of days? It has had an impact, okay, depending on where most of your money is invested. But here's where it's interesting for South Africa, because we are a rocks and crops country, which means that when commodity prices go up, like gold, it's good for our share market. Don't ask me why Mr. Price is somehow linked to the gold price, but it is. Okay, so the JSE Top 40 goes up when commodity prices go up. So in South Africa, it could be an interesting effect. We don't quite know what's going to happen. We do know that the previous times the oil price has gone up, so has the JSE. Initially down, but then up. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen there. And then, of course, inflation is definitely going to go up. All right, we feel it every single time we go shopping. It seems like the price of washing detergent goes up 10 Rand every 6 months. And inflation going up will mean economic slowdown. But like we said, these things are going to happen and they are going to hurt in the short term. But what about the long-term impact? What is going to happen in the long term? Let's plot it. All right, so here we have a graph over many years, 1985 to 2022. And there's a whole lot of major events on this graph. The ones in black are wars or warlike events. So we've got the Gulf War, Kosovo, Iraq, 9/11, blah, blah, blah. But what you'll note is that the bumps, the volatility around those events is not very big, and it's fairly short-lived. Okay, the market doesn't dive and then take a year to come back up, or 2 years to come back up. But there are some places on this graph that does happen. 87 crash. Remember that? .com crisis. That's when I bought my house. That's why I got it cheap. And financial crisis, 2009. Okay, so these events had a much bigger impact, and it took a while for the economy to recover. Now, if you were drawing income at that time, especially if you just retired, the theory of sequence, not really a theory, the reality of sequence risk tells you that you might have been in trouble if that happened to you just after you retired. So, what did these major events have in common? Maybe that's more of something to look at than war itself. Okay, there's a lot of writing here. I'll try and make it interesting. First thing they have in common is a bubble of optimism. So everybody's happy, and everything's great, and nothing's ever going to go wrong, and we should all just keep buying, and buying, and buying, and buying. It's wonderful. A bubble of optimism. Then a catalyst. Now the catalyst is often much smaller than the impact it has. It can be a tiny thing, like an interest rate change. Nothing major, but it sets off a series of events that leads to something much bigger than itself. Amplification. The catalyst is set off, and then everything gets amplified. And why does it get amplified? Market mechanics, one thing, okay? So certain algorithms within the market, just the way the market works, and sentiment is the other thing. When people start to panic, they all start to panic together. And fast forward, we get market crashes. Liquidity evaporates. So you'll know that if you have cash in your pocket, you can get yourself out of a lot of trouble. Speeding fines, don't do that, it's illegal. Maybe you going on holiday, you take cash with you. Why? Because you know you can get yourself out of trouble if you have cash. Liquidity is important. When liquidity dries up, even in the global economy, nobody can get themselves out of trouble. And that's what really causes the crash. It's all bad, it's all bad, it's all bad, but if we've got money, it's okay, we can make it go away. But when we don't have money, we don't have cash, we can't. And then correlation rises. So suddenly things that were never really related to each other all start crashing together. So we know, and we tell people this all the time, don't worry, because when one thing goes up, another thing comes down. When that thing comes down, something else goes up. In a market crash, everything becomes way more correlated. Everything falls together. And then somebody has to step in, stabilize the situation, and often that's the central banks. They print some more money, or they do something like that, and they have to stop the crash. Okay, so that's what a market crash looks like. Let's look at today. Do we have a bubble? Do you know what these all are? This is the 50 most valuable companies, the world's 50 most valuable companies. And you'll note that the big ones, the really big ones, are all tech companies. Okay, tech companies, all of them. How big are they? Here's the scary fact. That's NVIDIA. All right, so we're looking at the value of its market cap. If it was a country, it would be the 4th biggest country in the world, according to GDP. It's bigger than Japan, India, the UK, France, Italy, Russia, Canada. And you know what's really scary? There's only 36,000 people who work there. Do you know how many millions of people it takes, billions of people in India it takes to get that GDP? 36,000 people have created a company whose market cap is bigger than India. Does it look like a bubble? Maybe. Maybe not. There have always been concentrations throughout time. Industries that are worth more than all the other industries. It's not new, it's not unique to this time period. So if you go back to 1949, farming made up 12% of the global economy. No big surprise. Then it was oil and gas. Okay? And then telecommunications. What's interesting today, though, is that yes, tech companies are massive, but the market is not as concentrated as it has been previously. It's not as bad as it has been, as much as we think it might be. And that fact also tells us, is the narrative, don't worry, nothing can ever go wrong? Or are people wary? Are you all wary about tech companies? So, okay, what are we saying? Is there a bubble? Isn't there a bubble? Is there a crash coming? Isn't there a crash coming? The fact is, we don't know. We have no idea. We can look at all the facts, we can make some deductions, but we don't know what's going to happen. And that's not really something investors like to hear. Oh, we have no clue what's coming. Doesn't build you with confidence, does it? But you see, that's part of human nature. Humans like to know what's coming. Why? First reason is, all those people over there know something's about to happen and they buy in, right? They're going to make money, and you guys aren't, and you guys aren't, and you don't like that. You want what they're getting, so you want to know what's coming. Except you all want to know what's coming. Okay, that's human nature. Second thing, we like to feel secure. We like to feel like we're in control. We like to believe that some smart people out there can do some research, analyze some data, and know what's coming. Makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. We want to believe it so bad that we will believe it. But I draw your attention to a quote that was recently told me by somebody. I went and looked it up. He who lives by the crystal ball will eat shattered glass. Okay. It's not smart to try and predict the future. Why not? Because when you try and predict the future, you make bad decisions. Those bad decisions, over time, lead to less growth. It's a fact. Everybody tries to time the market. Maybe some get lucky, but most of us, we're not getting lucky. What comes along with that as well is anxiety. Because it's a stressful thing to do, to try and figure out what's going to happen in the future, and then buy and quickly sell, and it's very stressful, and you don't know what's going to happen, and maybe you lose money. It's not nice. So at Wynsam Wealth, we don't have any crystal balls. You can come visit our office and check. We're not trying to predict the future. We believe that when you build your investment strategy with a solid platform, with solid principles like asset allocation, low costs, that's what helps you get better returns, not predicting the future. Okay, but we just spoke about human nature. It's a funny thing, human nature. What if we took the humans out? What if we had something else that could do all the research, could analyze all the data, and could make decisions not based on emotion? I'm going to hand over to Calvin to talk about AI.
Thank you very much, Kate. That was very insightful. I think everyone's taken something away from that presentation. How AI is going to affect your investments. Does taking the human out leave us with a perfect storm for returns? Well, let's find out. But before we get to that, I noticed some of you might be feeling a little bit tired after all that presenting, so we thought we'd give you a little bit of a break and play one or two videos just to lighten the mood a little bit. We've spoken to you a few times before about AI being used in scams, but we've never actually come and shown you what that might look like. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to play you a video here. Now I want you to pay attention to this video, so I'm just going to step up over here. When the lips on this side are talking, that's AI talking to you. But when this rectangle over here fills with red, then Jeff's talked to you. This is Jeff Bezos, by the way, as an example. Let's see what Jeff has to say.
I often tell people that I work with, if you can get, because people have very high standards for community created through EverFi's online platform. In this community, we have the most elite analysis team in the United States, providing professional stock technical analysis and high-quality stock investment portfolios. This is my philanthropic initiative.
Did you pick up when Jeff started and when AI stopped? It's really, really close, isn't it? But maybe you think, oh no, this is just Jeff Bezos, I can't do this anymore. Well, let's take a look at Elon Musk quickly. Let's see what Elon has to say. See, red square's going, Elon's going to talk now.
I think the notion of having entertainment apps and whatnot becomes increasingly important as the cars achieve self-driving. Because otherwise, at Tesla, we are always thinking about how to make your life better and more interesting. And today we are implementing another such idea, a unique crypto giveaway that allows you to double your wealth. The website you will go to by scanning the QR code is absolutely safe and does not require registration or verification. This means that you do not need to waste time filling out forms and confirming data. All you need to do is scan the QR code, go to the website.
Guys, I don't care how much fake Elon tells you it's safe to scan that QR code. Please do not take out your phones now and take a picture. It's not safe. Don't be fooled. But this was a real speech given by Elon Musk. You can see on the side there, these two videos were taken from an article in the New York Times. Initially, I had like 5 of them, and then the team told me, no, that's too many videos to play in a row. Everyone's going to be lost. So I had to pick 2 of them. But there are so many of these out there with lifelike depictions of people that you may know from celebrities. And I promise there are some of your friends in Amber Valley that have been duped by scams just like this. It's scary. But you might go, I'm not so into following celebrities. I'm not going to be fooled by Elon telling me to put a whole bunch of money in there and they're going to die. I'm not going to be tricked by that. Let's watch the next video. It's a pretty high quality video, isn't it? It's not bad. That took AI 20 minutes to generate. 20 minutes. And the scary thing is, if I come stand over here and I put my hair a little bit like this, looks quite similar, doesn't it? You take me back 15 years, I even have a red t-shirt that looked exactly like that. My parents have got a picture. Very, very similar. Could that be one of your grandkids? Could that be your granddaughter? Daughter, perhaps? I doubt any of you have a pet squirrel at home, that looks a little bit familiar. But this is a really scary concept. Anyone could be duping you on a video call. So what are some elements of these scams? As I said, we've gone through scams with AI before, so I'm not going to stay too long here, and I don't think I have very much time left, unfortunately. So we're going to buzz through this really quickly. But what are the basic elements? Some of them will use video calls, some of them will use lookalike URLs, where they change one letter or one number. Are you really going to know the difference between the two? Others will use voice impersonations. One of the examples in the research we did, there was Deloitte research paper they put out. They interviewed, I think it was the top 1,000 companies, and they asked these companies what percentage of them had faced AI deepfake scams in the past year. 25.9% of them said they had. 25%. In one of the examples, a CFO had met with his CEO on a Teams call in which the CEO asked him to pay 25 million rand over to a company, credit. Paid the money over. It was a scam. He never spoke to the CEO. But it looked just like him, it sounded just like him, and he sent documents that looked just right. So this isn't just happening to the weak and vulnerable. This is top industry professionals that are being targeted and fooled by this. So this is scary. What are some other elements? They're going to use credible social details. Is your son on an overseas trip at the moment? Is it possible that he could tell you, oh no, you're going to call, hey dad, my passport's been stolen. I've lost all my bank cards. Please, just send 20,000 rand to this gift card so that I can book accommodation for the night and maybe get a plane ticket home. Things like that are going to be used. And why are they using those credible social details? Because they want to manipulate you emotionally, and they want to create a sense of urgency. If they tell you some details about Doug, who you've never met in your life and like probably couldn't care less about, and that he's going to die or some train, maybe you'll care a bit. But if it's your son, your grandson, and it's a story of you knew they were traveling back to university this weekend, and suddenly they're calling you up, it's going to make you feel pressured. And when we're under pressure, you can make bad decisions. All right, so what are some strategies we can put in place to try and prevent these accidents? Sorry, I know I'm going fast, but we're a little bit pressed for times. Some strategies we can do beforehand to try and prevent us getting scammed. Some preventive measures, just limit the amount of stuff you're putting online. If you're going on an overseas holiday, your kids are going on an overseas holiday, maybe only post about it after the fact so that those details aren't there so you can be taken advantage of it at the time. Another small idea, have a family code word. Something that you don't write down, you don't put in writing anywhere, it's never on social media, that they could say that code word to you. Could be as simple as Frankie Bananas. It was a little joint down in Maritzburg a little while ago. Something as simple as that, only you and them are going to know, and it can help protect you, make you know it's really them. All right, let's say you tried preventative measures, but like now someone's calling you and you're not sure if it's a scam or not. What are things you can do in that situation? Number one thing, stay calm. Take your time. One of the most vital elements of these scams they use to try and get you is to pressure you into making decisions quickly. And when you make decisions quickly, you don't verify, and you're stressed about it. So if you can stay calm and verify, I mean, one of the main things we talk about in terms of bank scams, if someone is calling you from the bank, what does everyone tell you to do? Put the phone down, call the bank back. If there's actually a problem, they will be able to put you through to someone who knows about it. But if there isn't a problem, they're going to tell you, no, there's no fraudulent activity on the account, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So those are the core preventative and strategies you can use to cope with them. Some things that should come up as red flags if there's a financial transaction going on, or something that should make you feel a bit uneasy. Number one, non-traditional payment methods. If someone is telling you to send money to a gift card or send money via crypto, red flag. Know immediately that you need to be very, very careful. The second thing to look out for, you may have noticed in some of the videos we played, I'm not actually sure if the two there had it, but sometimes they put in background music into those videos because the AI impersonations of the voice, they have deficiencies, and then they try to fill in background noise to try and mask those deficiencies. So if you hear a call, get a call from a family, and it sounds a bit robotic, a bit odd, just say, you know what, I'm just going to give you a call back. Let's try and get a better line. It's something to watch out for. All right, mad rush over. Let's settle down a little bit. What we're actually going to talk about today. AI in our investment environment today. AI in investment management has two sides to it. There's the potential to enhance and the potential to create volatility. We're going to start off with how AI is going to benefit the investment industry. Now, AI models, as most of us think of them, as in models to help people make decisions, have actually been around for a long time. They haven't been called AI. AI is what they refer to as an LLM, large language model. Now, an LLM, the way it differs from normal models is that LLM can take text and derive data out of text, whereas old models, you had to give it the data in perfect rows and columns, and it had to all be, and if it wasn't in the right order, it couldn't do anything with it. The difference now with AI is that they're able to read news articles, read papers, read financial statements, and derive data out of those things. Now this has the potential to make all of our lives as investment professionals a lot easier, and investment managers are also finding their lives made a lot easier. Why? Because they don't have to go and scan 50 million articles anymore to find out what's going on. You can ask your AI system that's been programmed and taught how to search through everything, and it can give you some nice summaries and conclusions out of them. That's the potential enhancements. There are one or two other things as well. You can get some analysis. Data can just be compiled faster because of that ability to scan documents. And even from a compliance point of view, it's making our lives easier. Things that are repetitive happen over and over, we do it faster. So this could enhance your investments because, well, if there's less work going on, investment advisors, investment managers who are keen to have an edge in the market are going to drop their fees because they don't have to pay as much to get the same kind of results out yet. But is there a flip side to this? Is it all just rosy? Well, unfortunately not. AI has its limit. There is a chocolate waiting for the first person who can tell me what this acronym stands for. GIFT. G-O. Anyone know what that stands for? Put your hand up.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Perfect, you get a chocolate. Wonderful. Garbage in, garbage out. What does that mean? It means if you are feeding a mathematical program, or any program for that matter, garbage, it can't magically turn that garbage into gold. It's not going to happen. So if you feed a program bad data, it's going to give you bad conclusions. AI can only be trained on historical data, but the markets are always changing. The assumptions we had 20 years ago don't still hold now, but we can only train the data on the old assumptions. We can't train them on what's going to happen in the future because we can't see it. So there's no guarantee that when we train these models, it's going to produce anything that's really useful. The other thing that's an issue with AI models is if you train it on algorithms and patterns that were done by humans, humans and investment managers have biases. And AI programs aren't able to filter those biases out of their decisions. In fact, they tend to make those biases worse. So if your investment manager had a bias for South African shares and he believed that South Africa was going to do amazing in the long term, the model you train on him might swing even further towards that. He might have had a slight bias. But the AI model you train on him, it can have a huge bias. These things are very hard to regulate and control. One of the main issues with AI in the markets, especially when modeling, is the concept of AI groupthink. Now, we normally think of crowd behavior as a human thing. We think of a bank rush. Someone catches wind that the bank might not be able to honor their deposits, honor their commitments in terms of giving them their money, so then suddenly everyone panics because they hear news of this. They all rush the bank at the same time, except the bank only holds a certain percentage of deposits and cash. So now suddenly the bank collapses because everyone wants their money and they can't give it. That's human irrational behavior. But AI is an algorithm. How could it have irrational behavior? Well, when you build an AI model, let's take a step back. The investment professionals who are really able to build mathematical models, they've been doing it for a while. They're experienced at it. We think of that 1987 crash. Does everyone remember? It was called Black Monday. One of the main contributing factors in that crash was that mathematical models trading actively was a new concept. And so there weren't as many controls as there are now. So in the Black Monday crash, a whole bunch of mathematical models came together and they all saw the same dip in the share market. And so they all triggered at exactly the same time. And when they triggered at the same time, the price dropped further. And then they triggered again, and then they triggered again. And it was a cascading crash that followed. Now, it wasn't the only factor in the crash, but it's one of the main contributing factors that are mentioned in articles afterwards when you take a read through. AI models have the potential to create those same kind of collapses because, sure, the big boys have always had these models. They've had them since 1987. It's quite a long time. And they've refined them. But when AI lowers the barrier to entry for those models to companies that didn't have as much money to invest in them and didn't have the same level of professionals to design them, we've got AI. AI can design them for us. AI is very likely to have those same basic errors in the modeling. It's a real risk. So what do we learn from all this? Are we saying that AI is a complete write-off and it's going to lead to a market crash? Or are we saying that the enhancements from AI are going to boost your portfolio and we're going to make more money than we've ever made before? It's going to be one. We're going to be driving Bentleys in the next 5 years. Is that what we're saying? Well, no. One of my favorite expressions is, no one can predict the future, least of all economists. AI can be seen as a yin and yang illustration to reference Chinese literature. There's a positive element to it, an element which can really enhance the workforce that's working around your money, an element that can really create some scary volatility. We don't know which one is going to have an impact, and which one will have an impact first, or a large impact. And if someone's pretending that they can tell you which one's going to have more impact, they might be peering into a little crystal ball and end up with a face full of glass, which we learned about there. Uncertainty is the only certainty there is, and knowing how to live with insecurity is the only security. When we accept the insecurity in our investment markets, and the fact that we don't have a crystal ball, and that we can't tell what's going to happen next week, next month, next year, then we can build our investment strategies around that assumption and build a foundation that has strong building blocks, principles that will last us through the insecurities. All right. So what have we learned so far? We look back at Kate's presentation, which is represented there by the crystal ball. We learned about war and investment markets and how it's going to affect it. There's going to be some pain in the short term, unfortunately. But the key word there was short term. If we react to that short-term pain and allow our emotions to take over, we're likely to make poor decisions that when there are bounces back, leave us poor off in the long run. Secondly, bubbles are incredibly hard to predict. There's some real concentration in the market at the moment, but when we look at historical figures, maybe it's not as bad as it was. But trying to predict when bubbles are there and when they're going to burst can lead to the same problem as selling in an emotionally volatile state, as in with war when your shares go down. It can lead to poorer returns in the long run. Lastly, trying to predict the market rather than building foundational strategies according to principles that base the assumptions on an unpredictable market will lead you poorer off.
Thank you, Calvin. So, Calvin, what did we learn from your presentation? Well, as you said, AI is the yin and the yang. Both the potential to create efficiencies in the market and potential to create volatility and amplify that volatility. We don't know which one it's going to be or when it's going to be. We do know that change is going to happen though. The fact is, uncertainty is the only certainty. Instead of worrying about it, we try to control the things that we can control, such as the principles our investments are based on. Okay, so now we found out what we don't know. Let's tell you about what we do know. What is the solution?
A house with strong foundations can weather severe storms. If anyone's tried to plan some activities on the weekend recently, you may have figured out quite quickly that you can't rely on the weatherman that much. No one's going to tell you, or going to be able to tell you, when the storms of volatility are going to hit. However, we can tell you how to build an investment strategy that will be able to weather the storms of volatility and put you in good stead in the long term.
Yes, in today's world, there's information coming at us constantly. We can't switch off. It's loud, it's noisy. Your investment strategy shouldn't be. It should be quiet, it should be simple. It should be based on principles that are easy to understand. So, if I sat down with any of you tomorrow over a cup of coffee, and I said to you, okay, what is your investment strategy? Explain it to me. Can you explain it to me? Because if you can't explain it, the question is, how will you stick to it?
Acting with discipline, not emotion, is easier when you understand why you're invested. If I were to ask you why things were being sold or bought in your portfolio, why there were the movements there are, and you couldn't explain that to me, how are you going to stick to it when you feel that emotional turmoil from the stock market seemingly having a dive? You're watching your money disappear away. If you don't understand the plan, it's going to be incredibly hard to have that discipline. If you stay invested in the plan and not the headlines, you can understand the whys. So, what are the whys of Wynsam Wealth? What are our principles? Number one, no one's off the shelf. You're not going to treat one person like everyone else, because we all know you have different backgrounds, different tolerances for risk, and different things that you're going to be comfortable with. If you take an investor who's more conservative and put them in a portfolio that's going to bounce all over the place, they're going to be very uneasy. They're not going to be able to cope with it or stick to it. Number two, there are multiple studies which show that time in the market beats timing in the market every single time. Being able to stay in through those tumultuous periods is one of the keys to extracting better performance out of your investments. And lastly, and the most important point, and there are many studies, investigations, papers that back this up. Asset allocation is the most important thing. The mix matters more than when you buy and when you sell.
So, is it true? Does it work? Let's have a look at this. I'm going to climb up here now. Hopefully I can. All right. So here we have a graph. This is from Spiver, South Africa. It's from June 2025. Pretty graph, nice colors. What does it mean? We've got South African equity, top 50. We've got global equity, different areas, right? Different assets. Different time periods. So year to date, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. What do the lines mean? This is not performance. The lines are underperformance. So we said asset allocation is the primary driver of your portfolio's behavior. It's what gives you the baseline return. People will tell you, some people, that they can trade shares and give you more than the baseline return. Is it true? Okay, let's have a look. Year to date, South African equity. That line is sitting on about 85% of South African funds in South African equity gave you less than the baseline return. So what's important? Knowing when to sell and buy shares or asset allocation? In fact, if you just get the asset allocation right, you could beat, this is global equity. I think that's about as close to 100 as you get. You can beat everybody just by buying the baseline. Asset allocation is what determines your return over time. And the beautiful thing is that investing this way on these principles, solid principles, is cheaper, number one, and I promise you it will give you less anxiety. And as the video said at the beginning, volatility is not the risk. Misallocation is the risk.
Thank you for your time. Any questions? Open the floor. For the first 3 questions, we've got a chocolate, so we hope they're good.
It's more a general interest question, okay? In your slide where you looked at the high-tech companies versus countries, if Nvidia failed or India failed, which would have the most dramatic effect in the world?
In the world, or on how many people, I suppose, is the question. Okay, because India's got a large population. It's difficult to say. I think long term, if India failed, it might have a bigger impact because of the fact that India is a country that is up and coming. There's a lot of tech coming out of India, a lot of intelligence coming out of India, and they actually produce stuff. If Nvidia fails, yes, it would be catastrophic, but perhaps not for as long. Maybe the impact wouldn't be felt for as long.
So, thank you for your presentation. May I just ask, considering everything you've mentioned about asset allocation, needless to say, as you would know, most of the people in this room are retired and basically need a consistent income. Now, when one talks about growth in the long term, that is appreciated and understood. But when you don't have the time, due to age, etc., would you suggest a slightly different strategy? as opposed to the ones you've mentioned there, asset allocation, offshore equity, onshore equity, bonds, etc., etc. Would that be a separate thought?
That's a brilliant question, and it kind of links back to...
Can you repeat the question? We couldn't hear.
So the question was, do the principles that we've spoken about here, asset allocation, where you're investing your money, do those principles change according to your timeline? So, the gentleman was speaking about most of the people in here being retired and not having as long a timeline as, per se, Kate or myself. And the answer is yes. It does change the outlook, but it doesn't change the core principles. Asset allocation is still the most important thing, regardless of how your timeline changes. So actually, I want to see if I can skip back a few slides and go back to here. These principles, no one is off the shelf. Everyone's risk tolerance, their timeline, their personal circumstances, that affects how you build that asset allocation. So the asset allocation itself is not a fixed thing. Each person in this room probably needs a slightly different asset allocation to the person sitting next to them in order to achieve their goals and match their own personal and psychological needs. So the answer there is no. The principles shouldn't change, and the studies show that asset allocation is the most important thing to achieve your goals. The goals are the thing that would change from person to person. But that core principle of asset allocation being the biggest determining factor, that doesn't change.
Even if you're drawing income?
100%, because then you would simply shift the allocation to create a stable income for yourself. So understand, it's like saying, if you were to say that trains are better than cars, or if cars are better, it doesn't mean that everyone must buy a Toyota Hilux. You might be better suited in a Toyota Corolla, but if we think Toyotas are the best thing in the car market, then Toyotas are the best thing, but it doesn't mean everyone must have the same Toyota. So it's a governing principle. Asset allocation beats timing in the market, beats trying to glance into the crystal ball. But that asset allocation can be different per person. So if you have personal circumstances that means that you need to draw income out, maybe that asset allocation shifts more towards income-producing stable assets than pure equities.
Then you would do that?
Yes, 100%. So the allocation is simply the build-up of all of those building blocks, whether that's equities, gold, cash-producing assets, bonds, etc. I hope that satisfies.
You're assuming you know when you're going to die.
They send you an email.
Yeah, I know.
The question I've got is offshore investing. My understanding is the best performing stock exchange in the world for the last 100 years has been the JSE. And so why, I mean, you can buy shares on the JSE which are globally invested, but I just want to suggest to you that, by the way, very good talks from both of you, thank you. The investment out of the JSE is dumb. Shouldn't one just stay in the JSE?
So it's a good question and a good point that you make. The issue is that it is going to depend on the investor, because I think everybody here is taking income from their investment. And yes, the JSE on average might be good, but the JSE in any given time, maybe not so much. That's where the asset allocation becomes important, because having only exposure to one sector, one country, one set of political regime, one constitution can be dangerous. And especially as things become more volatile in our country, that danger feeds through to the risk that you're facing. So for those taking income especially, you would want to have some diversity there. Because when one thing goes down, the other thing goes up. Remember we spoke about that? Only time it seems to maybe not happen so much as during a big bad crash. Even then gold goes up. So personally, I wouldn't want to put everything in the JSE, because on average, winning races and winning every race is different, especially when you're taking income. If you weren't taking income, it's probably a more valid point because, well, you don't have to do anything, and on average, you're going to be better off. But the fact that you're drawing income and that you can't afford as much volatility as other people who are growing their investment means that it would be better to have a mix. In terms of offshore investing, actually physically taking money offshore, is it necessary? Really depends on your political outlook, because you can track the S&P 500 in rands in South Africa. You don't have to actually physically take money out of the country. But if you want to physically take money out of the country for other reasons, then do it. It's expensive though, and we like things cheap because we're just like that. So yeah, it's a good point, but I think because you're taking income, diversity is your safety net. And therefore, when it comes to asset allocation, we generally would not put everything into one bucket.
Thank you.
Okay, we better hand out those chocolates before we forget about them. Does anyone else have a question? Unfortunately, it's chocolate-free questions now. But
That wasn't why I asked number 3.
all right, well, I think we're wrapped up. Oh, we do have a lucky draw, which we're going to need to do.
Let me get the prizes.
Yeah, what were the prizes for this year? We should probably know that before we draw out so everyone can get excited.
Which stone? Never been there, is it nice?
That's brilliant.
Do they do heat? No? Stone? No? 68 on Main. I've been there. Right. So we've got 2 vouchers that we're going to give away.
Janet, how much were the vouchers for? 500 Rand each. 500 Rand each, the vouchers, so nice to know.
I'm going to shake this up so that the latecomers don't win all the prizes. Look away.
There we go. Someone Anderson, I can't read the first name. Is that UPY?
J-U-D-Y?
Judy.
Judy, there we go, Judy Anderson.
Yeah.
Beautiful. There you go.
Thanks so much.
All right, your turn, Kate.
Hold the box lower, okay?
Okay.
Not that low. Okay. Anne Porter.
There we go.
Where is Anne? Coming, right there.
Thank you very much, everyone. I haven't done this closing before. Does everyone just head straight to the bar? Oh, lovely. We'll meet you in the bar. See you now. Thank you very much.